Growing up, I believe my mom's griot was the best. The way it sizzled in the pan, how the garlic and the citrus filled the air. It wasn't just dinner, it was a story about where we came from, who we were, and what mattered most. Think about your own food memories. Maybe it's how your grandma made dumplings by hand, or that midnight ramen that got you through finals. Maybe it's that one recipe you keep tweaking because it reminds you of home. Food is more than just fuel, it's connection, memory, and identity. And every one of us has a food story. My name is Sandie Markle, and welcome to Your Friend in Food. Here we talk about the meals that made us and the stories we carry with them. This isn't a show about going viral. It's about the quiet, meaningful moments behind the recipes and the people who make them. My family's from Haiti, and I grew up in a home where a home cooked meal was always better than a store bought one. That was the rule. I didn't always appreciate it at the time because honestly, I didn't cook. My mom did all the cooking. She cooked, I ate. It was a good system. I was what you might call a lazy perfectionist. I knew exactly what things were supposed to look like, smell like, and taste like, but I didn't want to do it unless I knew I'd do it exactly right. I had standards, just no actual experience. Despite that, I've always been a foodie. I love cooking shows from all over the world. I remember getting 8 of my teeth pulled out thanks to my orthodontist and spending a full week recovering in bed, binge watching Top Chef. I was miserable, but also completely fascinated and entertained by food. I learned so much without ever touching a cutting board. In high school, I took 2 cooking classes. One was focused on hospitality, and the other one was more culinary. But I was still a lazy perfectionist. But those classes taught me something really important. You have to commit to the process. Shout out to Miss Van Zandt and Chef Kane, wherever you are. They taught me that you can make things from scratch. They taught me how to trust a turkey. And yes, I cooked and ate ostrich for the first time. I was really fortunate because it wasn't one of those box to cookie mix kind of classes. We actually cooked. So, from home and at school, I learned something important. You can cook for a lot of reasons: to nourish, to comfort, to entertain. And even if I wasn't doing the cooking back then, I was absorbing every bit of it. I still remember the first time I wrote a recipe down, not for school or work, but because I didn't want to forget it. I think it was one of my mom's stews, turkey neck stew. The instructions were vague, and of course, something like add the seasoning until it seems right, but I wanted to capture it, even if I never made it the same way twice. Writing it down felt like I was preserving something real. It felt like I was saving a moment. Let me take you back to where this all really began for me professionally. Now, I know I said I would not talk about work here, but I promise it makes sense. My very first assignment during my probation was at a food tech startup in Shanghai, where I lived. I had just moved there, no background in tech, no formal experience in content, and absolutely no idea what UX even meant. I spent the last 10 years working in government finance, and suddenly I was helping a team of engineers build a cooking app. And here was my first assignment: pick a recipe from the app, cook it in the office kitchen, and take a picture of it. The recipe, Pip and Ebby's baked ziti. The photo, honestly, a little tragic. But the experience, it changed everything. Because in that moment, I felt supported. The recipe gave me context. I knew how long it would take, what to expect, and I felt this strange but powerful connection to the person who wrote it. That moment is when I realized how much work goes into making someone feel confident in the kitchen and how powerful that connection is between a recipe and the home cook. From there, I wore every content hat possible. Back then, if you weren't an engineer, you were on the content team. That meant photo, video, SEO, social captions, and yeah, data cleanup. It was chaotic and so formative. I learned how digital recipes really work, how they're structured, how they show up in search, and how they can be monetized. I learned how they move across platforms, how they plug into product features, and why a well tagged recipe could open the door to a lot of new brand partnerships. After that very humble beginning in a Shanghai office kitchen, I went on to lead a global content strategy, optimizing recipes for platforms like Alexa, Google, and retailers like Walmart, Panasonic, and Marks and Spencer. And today, I run Blueberri, where I help food creators and food tech companies turn recipe content into something more strategic, more valuable, more discoverable, more partnership ready. I get asked all the time about the name. Why Blueberri? It started in a little room called the Blueberry Jam Room, a bright cerulean conference room where I had hundreds of conversations with food bloggers, brainstorms, strategy sessions, and wild pitch ideas. That room became the heart of my content philosophy. And the I in Blueberri, well, that's on purpose too. It reminds me that this work is so personal. Every creator and food business has a different journey, a different voice, and a different definition of success. And now the best part, I've taken Blueberri on the road and offline, and I get to meet creators in person, hear their stories, and build solutions together. This isn't just about a job. It's my commitment to building something that works for creators with creators. And that's where your friend in food comes in. Every person listening has a food story. Maybe it's the first meal you cooked that felt like yours. Maybe it's the dish you kept making over and over because it's tied to something deeper. This podcast is my way of creating space for those stories. It's not about traffic or trends. It's about the meaning behind the meals. When I talk to guests, most of whom I've met and love their stories, you might hear me bring up my own food memories too. A time I made something they wrote, or a moment their recipe brought me back to. When I say your friend in food, I mean it. I've always valued the people who shared food with me, not just the food itself. The friend who walked me through a dish on the phone, the blogger who wrote a note that made me feel less alone, the stranger who dropped off soup when I was sick. Food is how we show up. Being a friend in food is how we say, I see you, and I brought you something warm. This season, you'll hear from creators who are honoring tradition, navigating burnout, and imagining the future of food. Next episode, I'll be talking to Chris De La Rosa, from CaribbeanPot.com. We'll be talking about tradition, legacy, and the unexpected stories that surface when you ask someone about their favorite meal. Chris is someone who's helped preserve Caribbean culinary heritage online, and his journey is a powerful reminder of why food content is more than just recipes. It's culture. I also want to hear your story. If you got a dish that reminds you of someone or a recipe you keep coming back to, I want to know. You can send me a voice memo, a note on Substack, or a message on Instagram. Whether I share your story in a future episode or just reply back, this space is just for us. Thanks for tuning in to the first episode of Your Friend in Food. Subscribe, share it with a friend, and remember, I'm Sandie, your friend in food. See you next time.